Hey, how you doing? Ruben again with Help Find the Others. Yeah, I again want to start with gratitude towards everyone that's gave a thumbs up or subscribed to my channel and left a message or emailed me. It's great to hear from everyone. It's great to see all the positive reinforcement for uh, the videos I've thrown out there, and it's good because I can be kind of a self doubter, and to see the response really means a lot to me. So again, if you like my videos, thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more, and send me a message if you want to reach out. So today I wanted to talk about bad trips and uh, the dangers of psychedelics and the importance of set and setting. Now, I can give some stories about bad trips, but uh, how I can tend to ramble, it would just take forever. Uh, but I think the main point, I'll kind of sum up a couple bad trips I had. But I think the main point I want to make about bad trips is that there's actually, uh, you know, just because it's not a good trip doesn't mean it's a bad trip, right? There's challenging trips, which maybe weren't good and were maybe hard and scary and very emotional, but have a positive outcome. I would say a bad trip is one that's like, yeah, like no good came of it other than the story and the idea of like I survived that, great, so but I think both of those situations arise from a non-optimal set or setting. And what if anyone, I hope people have heard that term, but if not, I'll just kind of describe it. Set is what's happening in between your ears, right? Because that's where the trip happens, is in your brain. And if something's going on in your brain that's bothering you or that you need to work out and you've been ignoring, well, psychedelics aren't going to make you forget that for a little while. Like, if you go out drinking, like your girlfriend broke up with you and you're like, I'm going to go out drinking and forget about it. Yeah, you might. That's not going to happen with psychedelics. Like, you're going to deal with it. And they're going to make you deal with it, or your brain's going to make you deal with it, however you want to look at it. You're going to work through your problems. And as long as it's not too complicated a problem, you're probably going to come out the other side having fixed whatever was wrong in between your ears. So it's not like you shouldn't trip um, if you got stuff going on in your life that's bothering you. But you shouldn't trip and expect that you're going to have a good time, because you're probably going to have a challenging, difficult trip. What I would call a bad trip arises from improper setting. So I feel that setting is probably more important than anything else, even dosage, because it can lead to terrible consequences. I mean, it can lead to jail. It can lead to, the breaking of friendships. So many things could happen because you didn't take into account your surroundings and the people that you're with, right? Um, and like I said, if you have one of these kind of bad trips, it's probably just going to be scary, and the only positive is going to be, that's over. I'm back home. Great. Like you're only going to learn from your mistake from that I shouldn't do psychedelics in that place again, right? So you'll hear that a lot of set and setting, set and setting, set and setting. It's super important. You can't just take these drugs and be like, oh, the drug's going to do what it's going to do, and I can control it no matter where I'm at. That kind of bravado will eventually be met with a very humbling experience of being smacked down by the drug. Like, no, you can't do this. So if you watch my other video where I talked about my 5 gram experience, that was a challenging trip where it was very hard. It was very scary. If I would have known what numbers were and a phone was, I would have called 911. I wanted to go outside and just yell help. Like it was very scary, very emotional during the time. But it was extremely life changing and extremely positive, and it was a watershed moment for my life. Like I can't imagine my life without that experience, even though I almost wouldn't want to do it again, because it was so challenging. And I had two what I would call bad trips. I've had scary moments. I've had, you know, all sorts of things happen on psychedelics. But I have two trips that I would say were just bad. Like nothing really good came of them other than learning from the mistake, right? So the first one it was with LSD, and it was like during the summer, like in between junior and senior year of high school. In high school, I did a lot of LSD. It was just around everywhere, and I didn't have any, you know, education on it. You know, like what's your dealer gonna tell you? Like no one even said what micrograms were. You know, it was just you took a hit or you took 2 hits or whatever. You know, like there wasn't any education about it. There wasn't YouTube and people like this talking and whatever. I think Irowid was around, but I didn't know about it. You know, but yeah, like I was just young and dumb and reckless, right? So, but I did acid with my friend in a house that his friend was squatting in. It was an abandoned house. When we got to the, like, I thought we were just going to a party. And when we got there, like, the windows were boarded up and there was a generator on the porch and extension cords going in the house and there was lamps everywhere. That was the only light. And, the girl's roommate's boyfriend was this, like, you know, real tough, tatted up, shirtless drug dealer with a big pit bull with a chain around his neck. You know, and like, we weren't going up there with the intention of doing acid either. Like, we were just going to a party. We were drinking beer and smoking cigarettes and smoking weed, and then, like, the drug dealer dude's like, hey, I got some acid if you guys want. And I was like, okay, you know, and he had it in a dropper bottle, and he was like, hey, I had some dude do it in his eye, like Jimi Hendrix. You want to give that a try? And I was like, hell yeah. I mean, come on. Looking back, man, what a terrible idea. But yeah, so I took random drops of whatever this guy had in my eye. And it burned like hell. You know, it wasn't an extremely visual trip, mainly because I was in sheer terror the whole time. So, you know, I could talk for an hour about this trip, and maybe I should have made a video just about it. But basically, to sum it all up, this dude was selling, like, coke and weed and pills and all this stuff, and people kept coming to this house for drugs and different people from different walks of life. Like, my buddy and I, we were from the country, and we were coming up to hang out in the city, and it was like, oh man, this is cool. We're hanging out at a cool city party at an abandoned house, you know, and like looking back, I'm like, that wasn't cool, but I thought it was in high school, you know, and I mean, there was like real tough, like inner city black guys coming to get coke and stuff like that, and like that was like so far away from my culture of like these country boys that had, you know, bonfire parties every weekend and whatever, and then they were doing acid. This guy was dosing everybody, so there was all these people of different walks of life. There was an older guy with like a high school age son that came by after a hockey game, and they were looking for weed, and then ended up dosing, and like everyone was in this living room that had no furniture, just folding chairs and lamps, and all these different people from different walks of life that all dosed at different times. And at one point, it was so bizarre in this living room, and I was like, I'm either gonna just like drive and go back home, or we got to go somewhere else. I told my buddy, and he's like, well, let's get my friend, and we'll just go up to her room and just hang out. And so I'm like, okay. So we go up to her room. And, like, it's getting really weird because he's trying to hook up with this girl, and I'm just, like, sitting there, and they're, like, ignoring me, and we're listening to, like, she was into, like, really weird music, and I'm, like, listening to it. I'm like, God, this is freaking me out. And so, like, I went out in the hall, and the pit bull that this drug dealer had was upstairs, and he was scratching at one of the other bedroom doors. And I was like, hey, what's up, buddy? And I'm like petting the dog, and he's just really intent on going inside. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll open the door for you. I thought like his food was in there. Well, I don't know what I thought. I was tripping, but I opened the door, and the girl's roommate had a cat that was in her room to keep away from the dog, and the dog goes in, and it's just chaos. This dog is chasing this cat. I mean, the cat's running up on the walls, and I mean, both of them are making awful noises. And I'm just like standing there, like staring, and I'm just like, oh man. And the drug dealer dude heard that, and he comes running upstairs. He's like, what the fuck? Why'd you let the cat in there? Or why'd you let the dog in there? He's gonna kill the cat. And like, he grabs the dog by the throat. It's like going like, ah, 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 ah. You know how like dogs make that like weird, like pit bulls make that weird ass noise when they get pulled off and stuff. And he takes this huge ass muscly dog downstairs, and he's fucking pissed at me. And the girl's roommate comes in and grabs the cat, and like, I mean, it's just, it was just crazy. There's another moment where like I've been hanging out and talking to this dude who's like, you know, like I said, like a really tough, like inner city black guy that like was doing acid for the first time in his life. And he was like kind of starting to freak out, and I was like, man, why don't we go upstairs and listen to music? Like, it really helped us. We were freaking out earlier, and well, we were still probably freaking out, but so we come up, and then like he starts trying to make out with my friend's ex-girlfriend or whatever, and he was like, y'all need to get out because we're gonna fuck. And I was like, I don't think she wants to, and she definitely didn't. And he was like, well, I don't care, get the fuck out. And like, was gonna fight us. And then he was like, I don't give a fuck, I'll fuck both of you up. He's like, I've been shot and stabbed. And he like lifted up his shirt, and he had all these scars and stuff. And we were like, okay. So we got out, and we told the drug dealer boyfriend dude, hey, can you get this guy out of there? He's trying to rape what's her name. And like, he went up, and they got in a fight, and he just fucking threw this guy out in the street who's like got a head full of acid, and he's all pissed off and everything, and he's just out on his own now. So like, we were worried he was gonna come back with his friends and shoot us or whatever. So that kind of like, whatever. The main point, because I mean, I could talk about this story forever, but anyway, the main point is like, what a terrible, terrible fucking setting. And I went into it not expecting to trip. You know, what did I gain from that other than the story? You know. Like, I mean, it was just insane. I remember driving back with my buddy in the morning. You know, we didn't sleep, but like once we came down, I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. And I was with my buddy. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to any like random parties that you invite me to anymore unless I know the people, you know. So another bad trip I had involved a bad setting as well, and this was at Bonnaroo, where I've every year I went to Bonnaroo, I did different psychedelics or whatever, right? But it's not a good setting, and every now and then, you know, the right dosage in the wrong setting will really create a bad experience. So this was the Bonnaroo before my one video I was talking about doing Molly with my wife. This was the year before, and Radiohead played, and we ate mushroom chocolates, and just one, you know, like I bought 4, and then my wife and I and 2 of her friends each ate one. And for whatever reason, we felt like playing euchre, the card game. And so we sat down, like we got in and to where Radiohead was going to play, and it was packed. I mean, there's 100,000 people in this field, you know. And we didn't really feel like getting to the front of the stage or whatever. So we just sat down and started playing euchre. And so, like, as Radiohead, I think we ate the chocolates after they were already playing or whatever. I can't remember the timing of it all, but basically, the mushrooms hit me stronger than I thought, and like euchre was just stupid. I couldn't figure, I'm just like, I'm like tripping out to Radiohead or whatever, and we're just sitting there, and I guess I was peeking or whatever, but I didn't realize that the concert ended, right? And we're just kind of like sitting there, and then all of a sudden there's just all these people like walking past us, and I'm just like looking up, just like, and I don't know if you've ever had this thing where you're like zoning in on everyone's conversations. If you've ever been in a crowd tripping, like you're just overwhelmed with. You're trying to listen to everyone's conversation as they're walking past you, and there's just more and more people, more and more people. It turns out there was only one exit gate, and we were sitting down in the middle of it, playing euchre as a field of 100,000 people emptied out into the campgrounds. And I'm just like sitting there, and there's just more and more people, and people are falling over me and like in my lap, and I'm like, ugh. And then all of a sudden, this dude grabs my shirt, and his face is in my face, and he's like, sitting down's not an option, man, and picks me up and carries me out into the campground with the whole herd of people, and I'm just like, just like pinballing off of people, like, oh my god. And I had completely lost my wife. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time. I completely lost my girlfriend and her friends, and I don't know where the hell I'm at. There's no way I would ever find anyone, you know? I'm just like, oh my god, I'm completely fucking lost in Bonnaroo. Like, this is, like, you always see those dudes. I'm like, I'm that guy now. Oh my god. Like, I'm fucked, right? And I'm just like, in total panic mode. Total fear, panic. Like, I'm lost. I'm never going to find our campsite. And I live at Bonnaroo now, like, whatever, you know. I mean, there was a million thoughts that went through my head. And eventually, like, my girlfriend found me and held my arm and was like, all right, we need to go back to the tent. And I was, like, completely freaked out for the rest of the time. And, like, I'm, like, sitting in the tent, like, you know, like, it just set off this terrible night until the mushrooms wore off. I was in complete fear of everything. And it, like, again, that's not the drug's fault. The dosage probably wasn't too high, you know. I probably, if I wouldn't have sat down in the exit of a major concert like that, it probably would have been okay, you know. But it was just this bad setting that just led to a terrible time, right? And so that's what's important, you know. You need to take that into account. I read reports on Reddit. I just saw one the other day where someone was talking about, like, oh, you should never hippie flip or whatever because this is my story. And he, like, went to, like, a frat party or something and was hippie flipping, and he was the only one. And, like, he was saying, oh, the dosage was too much, or you shouldn't combine these drugs. And it's like, don't blame the drug, you know? You had a bad time because of bad choices. You can never blame the drugs in these bad situations because the drugs are going to do what they're going to do. As long as it's not some weird research chemical, you know, if you know what drug you're taking and it's one of the, you know, tried and tested psychedelic drugs, you're going to, like, it's going to do what it's going to do. But if you don't take set and setting into account, you're going to have a bad time. And, you know, unfortunately, the research isn't out there to know what effect these substances will have on mental illness. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about is that, you know, you see people, I see on Reddit as well, like, people be like, is it okay to give my 13-year-old brother who is suicidal and thinking, or depressed and suicidal and cuts himself, should I give him a heroic dose of mushrooms? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, like, what? I mean, let alone the age. I mean, if he was 43, you can't just go like, oh, I'm going to self-medicate and cure this guy's depression. Like, you know, that's the thing is, like, I think that psychedelics should be legalized, but I don't think they should be legalized in that you can get them anywhere. Or like in Amsterdam where you can go get truffles. Like, I don't think that's right. Like, I think they need to be able to be used in, like, religious and, or spiritual and therapeutic sessions, you know, to where you're having a guided experience. And that's how the research is being done at Johns Hopkins and stuff, is there's two, you know, people watching over you while you're having this experience, and you're in a nice calm room laying on a couch with blinders on, like listening to a playlist of nice music and everything. This is a proper setting. Your set can be whatever. If you understand what you're going into, your set cannot be optimal, and you could be going into it like, I have to work this out. If you have a terminal illness, or, you know, a loved one just died, and that would affect your set, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the experience. You just should plan on having a difficult time. But the setting is just so important. And that's what I learned going through life. And like one message I would like to get out there for teenagers or whatever, for people that are just starting to experiment with psychedelics, that your setting is so important. You can't take them and just go to any old party, you know? You just have to know that regardless of what's actually happening in a psychedelic experience, you're definitely going to be more in tune to the energy around you. And if there is negative energy, you're going to be more in tune to that. And you're going to pick up more negative vibes and have a more negative experience. And if you can't control the energy around you, the energy around you will control you. So setting, definitely take into account. I will never, ever use a psychedelic again without completely taking setting into account. You know, I would never take a psychedelic unexpectedly. I definitely did that in my youth, but I would definitely not do that now. And I would tell people who are, you know, just coming of psychedelic age that, like, don't take them unexpectedly. Have a purpose. Have an intention. Make sure your setting is comfortable and that you're going to be surrounded by positive energy and you'll have a good time. There's so many people that I read about bad experiences, and it's like, yeah, look where you were and who you were with, you know, like, yeah, you were with your girlfriend who was unhappy you were taking them, and that's how your trip went, was like with an angry girlfriend with you. Like, of course that's going to be bad, you know? I don't know. I see a lot of that on Reddit, and I know it's just young people that are just figuring it all out, but that's part of what I intend to do with this channel also, is get the information out there that I didn't have when I was young. And I made a lot of mistakes to learn what to do and not do, and what to expect, and what can be unexpected that can arise, and how to handle it. You know, like, I want to spread that information because, like I said, unfortunately, society just wants to ban these substances, and they don't want to, you know, have any education about them. Their education is, don't do it. You might fly off a building or think you can fly, which is totally not true, and everyone should know that. That's not true. That's not a danger of psychedelics. The danger is, hurting your psyche and scaring the crap out of yourself and giving yourself, long-lasting anxiety and everything like that. That's definitely much more probable of a bad trip than thinking you can fly and jumping off a building. I guess that's all I have about that. If anyone wants to have a Skype chat and we can talk about bad trips, that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be a good Skype chat interview thing to put on this channel. So if anyone does that, email me at helpfindtheothers@protonmail.com. And I think that's about it for the video. Give a thumbs up, subscribe. I'll see you guys later.